Raj Bennett had seen his share of war zones, but nothing prepared him for the moment her blood stained his hands. 1 second, the grand assembly hall of Centauri 9 shimmered with ceremony. Flags raised, diplomats exchanging cautious pleasantries beneath domes of polished crystal. The next, it shattered into hellfire. The explosion came from the northern wing. A violent ripple tore through the floor, sending glass and screams into the air. Raj, stationed along the perimeter as a combat medic for the human delegation, barely had time to drop to a crouch before a second blast knocked him clean off his feet. His head cracked against a marble column, and the world vanished in smoke and silence. When he came to, the air was thick with ash and the scent of melting synthetics. Fires danced in the rubble like uninvited spirits. The grand hall, once pristine, was a broken tomb of steel and flame. He coughed, pain searing down his side, and pushed himself upright. "Anyone alive?" he called out, voice hoarse. A faint moan answered him. Female. Close. He followed it through the wreckage, his medic instincts overriding pain and panic. But what he found beneath a slab of scorched ornamentation wasn't Ambassador Winters or a human official. It was her. Princess Thalara of the Vizari Empire. Even under ash and blood, her presence was unmistakable. Blue-tinged skin, high cheekbones, and fierce yellow eyes, dazed now but still glowing faintly. The ceremonial markings of her royal status were smeared with indigo blood. One of her ears twitched, orange-tipped and elegant, despite the gash running along her temple. Raj didn't hesitate. "Your Highness," he said, already kneeling beside her, eyes scanning for injuries. A jagged shard of metal pierced her thigh. Her arm bent at an unnatural angle. "Human," she rasped. "Where? Is Commander K, my guard?" He looked around. The smoke told him all he needed to know. "I don't see anyone," he said, peeling debris from her body. "They would not leave me." She tried to rise, then gasped in pain and collapsed again. Raj activated his comm. "This is Combat Medic Bennett. I've located Princess Thalara, requesting immediate evacuation and Static. He switched channels. Nothing. Then, movement. Figures in armor moving through the smoke. Vizari Royal Guard. He waved frantically. "Here. The princess is here." They turned toward him. For a breath, he felt hope. Then, they turned away and disappeared. She saw it too. "No." Her voice cracked. "They saw me. They saw..." And still they left. Raj didn't answer. He knelt again, injecting a painkiller into her thigh and gripping the shard. "This will hurt," he said. She gritted her teeth. "My kind abandons the weak," she muttered. "Your kind doesn't." He pulled the metal free in one smooth motion. Her body jerked, but she didn't cry out. Raj worked quickly. Bandage, splint, pressure. The ceiling groaned above them. Another explosion shook the floor. "We need to move! I'm taking you to the human outpost. Selenian Valley. 50 miles south. You'll never make it carrying me." "Watch me," Raj said. He lifted her into his arms. She was taller than human women, heavier with armor and pride. But he carried her anyway, through fire, ash, and betrayal. And as they left the ruined summit behind, the only thing more dangerous than the journey ahead was what it would do to them both. The first hour was agony, for both of them. Raj's boots crunched over scorched debris as he carried the alien princess through the smoldering ruins of Centauri 9's summit complex. Every step sent fresh jolts of pain through his ribs, but he didn't slow. He couldn't. Behind them, the sky burned with distant fire, and ahead, a forest of violet ferns whispered in the wind, concealing predators of a different kind. "You can put me down," Thalara muttered, her voice sharp despite the exhaustion. "I am not fragile." "You're bleeding from 3 places and your arm's barely attached," Raj grunted. "So yeah, you kind of are. Vizari warriors do not need pity. This isn't pity. It's physics." He adjusted his grip, tightening his hold as the terrain sloped downward. She shifted slightly, a flare of pain tightening her jaw. "I don't require your help," she insisted. Raj huffed. "Too bad. I require your survival." That silenced her, for a moment. Then she asked, cold and curious, Why? Because you're alive. And that's enough. No, she said firmly. That is not enough. We are enemies. If I were uninjured and you at my mercy, you would not be treated with such softness. Then it's a good thing I'm not you. Her eyes narrowed. You risk your life, strain your body, for someone who may oppose you again tomorrow? Possibly, Raj admitted. But today isn't tomorrow. Today you're bleeding, and I'm the one with bandages. He kept walking, pushing through dense underbrush that hissed against his armor. The air grew humid, filled with the distant calls of native wildlife. Somewhere far behind, another explosion rumbled, a grim reminder of the destruction they'd left behind. Eventually, he found a shaded hollow beneath a wide-rooted tree and eased her down against the bark. She tried to sit up, failed, and immediately scowled. This is undignified. So's being blown up. Take a breath. She glared. You're remarkably flippant for a medic. You're remarkably proud for someone with a fractured femur. She exhaled sharply. Half frustration, half a laugh she tried to bury. Raj knelt beside her and opened his medkit. Pain's setting in. I need to give you something stronger. She didn't resist this time, just looked away as he pressed a syringe against her neck. I know what you think of my people, he said quietly. I've heard the speeches. Undisciplined, emotional, soft. Right? She said nothing. But emotion isn't weakness. And discipline without empathy? That's just cruelty in uniform. At that, she turned her gaze to him. Not quite hostile, not yet convinced, but something softened around the edges. I've met many humans, she said finally. None of them carried someone who insulted them for miles without complaint. I complain plenty. I just save it for when no one's listening. She studied him for a long moment. What's your name again? Raj. Raj Bennett. Her head tilted. That is a strange name, says the woman named Thalara. A beat. Then, just the ghost of a smirk. Touché. The forest grew stranger with every step. The deep violet ferns gave way to squat, bulbous growths, mushroom-like structures that pulsed faintly with bioluminescent veins. The air thickened, sticky, and heavy. Each breath tasted wrong. Raj slowed his pace, shifting Thalara slightly to adjust her weight. Her skin was clammy against his armor, but her eyes were open now, more alert, scanning their surroundings. This isn't natural, she said, her voice tight. Spore clusters. My people avoid these zones. Raj sniffed the air. You're saying we're walking through a toxic field? Yes. Prolonged exposure is lethal for both our species. He looked around. No detour. No path back. The sound of aircraft had echoed earlier. Someone was following them. They had no choice but to push forward. Then we don't stay long, he said. He pulled his collar over his nose, then turned to her. Cover your mouth. Breathe shallow. We move fast. She gave a reluctant nod, using her working arm to raise the edge of her cloak. Pathetic, she muttered through fabric. A royal escort would have breathers, counteragents. Your royal escort bailed, Raj reminded her. We're what you've got. Despite the sting of truth in his words, she said nothing more. They entered the spore field at a brisk pace. Every step stirred the air, releasing faint clouds of glittering dust. Within moments, Raj felt the spores burning against his skin, an acidic itch crawling across exposed areas. Thalara coughed behind him, eyes watering. No stopping, he said. Just a little further. Suddenly her weight shifted. Hard, she had gone limp. Thalara, hey! He knelt quickly, holding her upright. Her breathing was shallow, her pulse rapid. Raj clenched his jaw. They needed to get out. Now he hoisted her higher, pain screaming through his muscles, and pushed into a sprint. Branches whipped at his face. His lungs burned. But he didn't stop. He burst from the far edge of the spore field and stumbled into clearer air. The burning in his skin didn't ease, but at least the air was breathable again. Beneath a thick-trunked tree, he gently lowered her to the mossy ground. Her eyes fluttered open, unfocused. Still with me? He asked. Barely, she whispered. From his medkit, he drew 2 vials, anti-inflammatory and antihistamine, and injected her first, then himself. The relief was immediate but incomplete. Angry red welts had already begun to form on both their skin, As he applied soothing gel to her forearms, her voice broke the silence. "I underestimated you." Raj blinked, caught off guard. "Say that again?" She didn't. But she didn't stop him either. They spent the night under a wide-boughed tree, wrapped in the quiet of Centauri 9's alien forest. Above them, stars pierced the amber haze. Around them, the forest hummed with distant life, unfamiliar, but oddly soothing. Thalara sat against the roots, her injured leg outstretched, arms folded. Her skin still bore the angry welts from the spore field, but her breathing had steadied. She hadn't spoken in a while. Raj sat a few feet away, checking the last of his equipment. The silence between them was neither hostile nor awkward, just waiting. Finally, her voice broke the stillness. "You could have left me, after the spores." He didn't look up. "Yeah, I could have. But you didn't." "Nope." A beat. "Why?" Raj considered his answer carefully. "You're someone's daughter, someone's sister, someone's leader. You matter." She tilted her head toward him, eyes narrowing. "That is such a human thing to say." "Thanks." "Not a compliment. I'll take it anyway." Her mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but not a frown either. She ran her fingers over the bark behind her. "On my homeworld, empathy is viewed as a resource, useful when controlled, dangerous when undisciplined." Raj scoffed. "Ah, that explains your bedside manner. I wasn't trained to tend wounds. Number. But you're learning how to receive care. That counts for something." She looked at him for a long time, her expression unreadable in the dim glow. "You confuse me," she admitted. "Join the club," Raj muttered. She shifted slightly, wincing. "You're not what I expected, not like the others we've fought." Raj finally looked up. "You mean loud, arrogant, trigger-happy types who show up with guns and call it diplomacy?" "Yes," he shrugged. "I've met those too. I try not to be one." Another silence, but this one felt warmer. Then, softly, she said, "My mother was a warrior, commander of a cruiser fleet. She died in a campaign near the Singari cluster." Raj nodded. "My mom was a hydro engineer. Died in a pirate raid when I was 10. "Pirates?" He nodded again. "Raided our colony on Kepler 3. They took everything, resources, people, burned the rest. A combat medic saved me. He lost his leg getting me to safety. And so you became one?" "Yeah, because that one person didn't run." Thalara was quiet for a while. When she spoke again, her voice was softer. "I was meant to lead an expedition after the summit, to cross the Shimmering Ranges, an unclaimed region on our northern continent. No royals done it in generations. Sounds like an adventure. It was meant to be approving." Raj leaned back, watching the stars shift above the trees. "You still can," he said. She didn't reply right away. Instead, she asked, "What do humans do when they're afraid?" He blinked at the question. "Depends. Some run, some freeze, some fight. And you?" "I breathe, think, do the job in front of me." She turned toward him, her gaze searching. "I think that's what frightens me most," she whispered. "That your kind does not let fear control you." He met her eyes. "Oh, we feel it, every second, but we decide what to do with it." She was so close now he could see the flecks of gold in her yellow eyes. After a long moment, she said, "I do not want to sleep alone tonight." Raj didn't move. "That because of the predators?" "Yes," she said too quickly, then added more quietly, "And no." The sound came just before dawn, a twig snapping beneath a boot. Raj's eyes snapped open. In the dim glow of morning, he saw Thalara already sitting up, alert, her yellow eyes scanning the tree line. The fire between them had died down to embers, but the tension had returned full force. "We're being tracked," she whispered. Raj nodded once. He reached for his sidearm without a word and crawled to the edge of their makeshift camp. Through a break in the undergrowth, he saw them. 3 figures in matte black armor, moving with the kind of precision that only came from elite training. Not local fauna, not random scavengers. These were Vizari soldiers, and not ordinary ones. Their helmets were angular, more advanced than standard units. Their weapons, compact plasma carbines. Silent. Deadly. Raj slipped back to Thalara's side. "Your people?" "Not mine," she said darkly, tapping a small device embedded in her armor. "They're using Royal Guard tracking signals. But those are not standard-issue weapons. Assassins. Loyal to my brother," she said, voice low and bitter. "He's finishing what he started." Without hesitation, Raj reached for her shoulder plate and the ornate sigil embedded there. The Vizari royal crest. Her hand caught his wrist instantly. "That insignia is sacred," she hissed. "It's a beacon," he replied, "and it's going to get us both killed." They locked eyes for a tense moment, her grip like iron. Then, slowly, she released him. Raj pried the crest loose and buried it beneath a patch of moss and soil. "We move. Now." He lifted her again, this time with no protest. Her pride had learned the difference between stubbornness and survival. Instead of heading south, Raj veered east, toward the jagged hills they'd spotted the day before. It was harder terrain, but easier to lose a trail, and they needed to be lost. They moved quickly, through dense foliage, ducking under low branches, and crossing shallow ravines. Every few minutes, Raj paused to listen. The sound of pursuit grew fainter, but it didn't vanish. "They won't stop," Thalara said, breathing harder. "My brother has rewritten the narrative. If I die here, he inherits everything without question." "Then we rewrite it again," Raj said. The trees thinned as they reached the base of a rocky outcrop. A narrow fissure in the stone offered a potential hiding place. Raj slipped inside first, testing the space. It was tight, barely 2 meters deep, but sheltered, dry, defensible. He helped Thalara inside, setting her down against the wall. They both sat in silence, catching their breath. The tension pressed against the narrow walls like a second presence. She broke the silence first. "You don't have to stay with me, Raj. If you leave now, you might still make it to the outpost." "Not happening. You don't understand. If they catch you, they won't." Her voice lowered. "I am not worth this." He looked at her, really looked. "You are," he said. "Maybe not because you're a princess, or a leader, or a warrior, but because you're trying. And you're still here." A beat, then very quietly, "I don't want to die in this hole." "You won't." Raj checked his ammo, then adjusted the energy setting on his sidearm. "If they find us, they'll have to go through me." She stared at him. "You don't even know me." He smiled, faint and tired. "I know enough." The moment hung between them, raw, real. Then her hand reached out, finding his, fingers laced. The fire outside might still come for them, but inside this narrow space of stone and breath and bruises, something stronger had started to burn. The silence in the rock fissure was thick, not just the silence of breath held in fear, but of something else, something suspended. Between two lives, two bodies, two choices. Raj kept his hand wrapped around hers, their fingers still linked from earlier. It wasn't strategy anymore, or comfort. It just was. He could feel her pulse through her fingertips, steady now, but barely. The tension in her shoulders had faded. Her grip was no longer defensive. "You're not afraid anymore," he murmured. She didn't look at him. "I am, but not of them." He glanced sideways, searching her profile in the dim, filtered light. Her jawline was cut like marble. Her skin still bore faint welts from the spores. Her breathing was shallow, but no longer from exhaustion. "What then?" Her golden eyes slid toward him. They were softer than he'd ever seen them. "Of what I feel when I look at you." Raj didn't speak. The air shifted. Outside, wind rustled faintly through the alien trees. A pale light broke the clouds, slanting through the narrow entrance to their hiding place. "I was taught," she said slowly, "that vulnerability is a leash. That closeness is corrosion. The Vizari code demands we master ourselves, or be mastered." "And what do you feel now?" he asked quietly. She turned to face him, fully. like I'm failing that code. And for the first time, I don't care. She reached up, fingers brushing the side of his face, rough from days without shaving. Her touch was cautious, reverent, as if unsure whether he was real. Raj leaned into it just slightly. The warmth of her skin radiated into his, their foreheads nearly touched. "You saved me," she whispered. "Not just my body." "You saved yourself," he said. "I just carried you." Their lips met like the moment had always been waiting. Not rushed, not hesitant, but with the quiet certainty of gravity, like two stars pulled into the same orbit. Her mouth was warm, unfamiliar. She tasted like something not from Earth, spice and ozone and something sharp beneath it all. Her breath hitched as his fingers slid along her jaw, trailing down her neck. When they broke apart, it wasn't because the moment ended. It was because it needed to deepen. She looked at him, really looked, and for once there was no trace of royalty in her face, just a woman, fierce and tired and alive. "I don't know what this is," she said. "Neither do I," Raj admitted. "But I want it." He kissed her again, slower this time, savoring every second. Her hands found his shoulders, his chest, then settled at his back, pulling him closer. Their armor was peeled away in pieces, gently, carefully, with the same reverence they'd shown in combat. Every scar, every wound, every difference in their physiology was a map they were suddenly eager to trace. Beneath layers of protocol and battle and history, they met not as soldier and princess, but as two souls who had bled, endured, and found each other in the ruins. They moved together, slow, deliberate, every motion a question asked and answered in the quiet language of touch. Her body was warmer than his, her skin faintly luminescent in the low light. He traced the markings along her sides, the stories written into her bones, and she gasped when he kissed the place where her heartbeat thundered. No one told them what came next. There were no guides for interspecies closeness forged in fire and blood. But they didn't need one, because in that moment, in that fragile sanctuary carved into a hostile world, they made their own language. And for the first time in either of their lives, it didn't matter where they came from, only that they were here, now, together. The cave system unfolded before them like a forgotten lung of the planet, winding, alive, breathing, silence. After the storm passed, Raj and Thalara didn't speak much. They didn't need to. Something had shifted, solidified between them in that cramped fissure. Now, they moved together, with quiet purpose. Thalara leaned more heavily on him as they climbed through slick tunnels carved by water and time. Her healing had accelerated thanks to her physiology, but she still favored one leg. "The deeper we go," she murmured, "the older the air feels." Raj scanned the walls with his wrist light. The rock was dark, but not lifeless. In places, strange lines of bioluminescence pulsed beneath the surface, like veins under skin. "Your ancestors ever build underground?" he asked. She nodded. "Long ago, before expansion, before war became our identity." The passage widened suddenly, revealing a circular chamber. Massive, silent. Raj froze. This wasn't carved by nature. "No," Thalara whispered. Her eyes had gone wide. "This is a medical sanctum." Recessed along the walls were 6 pods, egg-shaped, metallic, each glowing with a faint, rhythmic pulse. Despite centuries of dust and decay, they were still alive. "Self-sustaining biotech," she said reverently. "This is pre-imperial Vizari. We thought these systems were myth." Raj approached one, brushing off a layer of grime. His fingers paused on the interface. "Think it still works?" "They were built to heal our wounded during the ancient border conflicts. Accelerated regeneration, neural recalibration, genetic repair." She turned to him, hesitant. "I could recover completely in hours, if the pod calibrates correctly." Raj nodded. "Then let's make it work." But she didn't move. "There's something else," she said, her voice quiet. "The interface. It requires a bonded assistant. Someone to link into the neural sequence. Someone I trust. Raj blinked. You mean... Yes, you. Silence. Then he stepped forward, wordless. As Thalara stripped down, armor and layers set aside, her movements were slower, more deliberate. Not shy, but solemn. Like this wasn't just a procedure, but a rite. Raj helped her step into the pod, guiding the cables to the embedded ports in her shoulders and spine. Her breathing hitched once, then steadied. Last part, she said, voice barely audible. Skin contact. Here. She took his hand and placed it against the glowing node beneath her collarbone. The instant they connected, he felt it. A surge of heat, memory, emotion. Flashes of her past, her mother's voice, the cold loneliness of royal halls, the sting of failure, the defiance of survival. And, beneath it all, him, his face, his voice, the way he carried her through fire. The machine responded with a low hum, enclosing her in light. She exhaled slowly, her hand still wrapped around his. You trust me with your life, he said quietly. She met his eyes. I already did. The pod sealed, soft light radiating outward. Raj stood there for a long time, his palm still tingling, before turning toward the entrance of the chamber. He would guard her now, not out of duty, but out of something far more powerful. The chamber was silent, except for the low hum of the regeneration pod. Raj stood near the entrance, sidearm at the ready. Time stretched. He didn't realize he'd been holding his breath until the pod released a soft hiss and began to open. Light spilled across the stone floor as the pod's casing slid back. Thalara emerged slowly, eyes glowing brighter, skin healed, breath steady. Her movements were fluid again, graceful and powerful. Raj's lips parted. You look... alive? She smirked. Before he could say anything else, a series of faint beeps echoed from a nearby console embedded in the wall. Dust scattered as the ancient Vizari panel flickered to life, its systems reacting to the power surge from the pod. Raj crossed to it. Still functioning? Thalara moved beside him, scanning the glyphs. It's connected to an old communications array. One-way reception only, but it's pulling something. A crackle, then static, and then... Operation successful. Summit eliminated. No surviving heirs confirmed. Raj froze. Another burst of static, then clearer. Proceed with coronation protocols. Confirm Thalara's body unrecovered. Use strength doctrine to justify failure. The voice was cold, familiar. Thalara's eyes widened. That's my brother. Her face drained of color. She pressed a finger to the console, trying to rewind the message, but the signal was already degrading. Ensure human witness neutralized. No survivors past extraction threshold. Then silence. It hung in the chamber like a verdict. Thalara stepped back, visibly shaken. He lied to the High Council, told them I died, used the doctrine to cover his treason. Raj watched her as pain gave way to fury. Her hands curled into fists. All my life I followed that code, believed it made us strong, but it was just a shield for his ambition. She turned to Raj. He didn't just try to kill me. He tried to erase me. Raj nodded. And if he finds out you're alive, he'll send everything. There was a long pause. Then she reached up, removed a ceremonial clasp from her armor, and handed it to Raj. What's this? My insignia. The last one I still carry. If I fall, give it to the High Council. Show them this chamber, this pod. Show them I was alive, that he lied. Raj didn't take it right away. Instead, he stepped forward and pulled her into his arms. You're not falling. She didn't resist, and when they pulled apart, her eyes were steel. Then we stop him. Together. They didn't wait. Thalara emerged from the ancient chamber in her full royal armor, restored, polished, and worn like a vow. Raj walked beside her, blaster charged, every step silent but certain. They moved through the undergrowth like shadows. Behind them, the sanctum's entrance sealed, locking away the old Vizari truth. For now, their destination, the Imperial relay beacon 3 clicks east. If they reached it, they could hijack the transmission grid and broadcast everything, the ancient pod, the betrayal, the living heir, They were halfway there when the forest lit up in flashes of plasma fire. A Vizari strike team. Elite. Raj tackled Thalara behind a ridge just as the air exploded with heat. "They found us faster than expected," he muttered. Thalara was already calibrating a sidearm. "They're afraid. That means we're close." The firefight was brutal, measured, strategic. But it wasn't enough to stop them. Not this time. Thalara moved like wind and flame, her body dancing between cover, her eyes sharp and unyielding. Raj provided cover, every shot pushing back enemies, buying seconds. They reached the relay. Raj slammed the control panel open, fingers flying over alien glyphs. "Uploading now. Encryption unlocked. Signal open." Thalara stood guard, eyes scanning the tree line. A shout behind them. One soldier lunged from a drop above. Thalara turned and fired in a single motion. One shot, center, mass. The attacker fell. "Broadcasting," Raj said. The screen lit up, ancient symbols, images from the pod, her vitals, the recording of her brother's betrayal. Her voice came next, calm and unshaking. "This is Thalara Vizari. I am alive. The air lives. The doctrine was used to mask treason. I stand here not to reclaim power, but to demand justice." All across the quadrant, Vizari ships, council halls, outposts, the message echoed. Then came silence. Then came movement. Ships descended, not with fire, but with banners. Thalara stood in the clearing, shoulders square, as the first delegation landed. Council envoys stepped out, stunned, wide-eyed. One elder dropped to a knee. "You live," Thalara nodded. "And I remember." Raj stepped beside her. She didn't do it alone. Eyes turned to him, human, outworlder, enemy, until Thalara spoke again. "This man is no outsider. He is proof of the future we must now face. A future built not on conquest, but on alliance." Silence. Then a second envoy knelt, then a third, and then an entire ring of kneeling figures. Raj looked at her, voice low. "I thought you didn't want a throne." "I don't," she whispered. She reached for his hand. "But I'll take a world, if it means changing what it means to rule." Weeks later, the sky above the Vizari capital glowed with twin moons, one full, one shattered. Raj stood on the balcony of the diplomatic wing, watching the city hum with energy. Lights flickered in the distance. New ships arrived daily. Flags changed, treaties signed. But it was the silence between moments that struck him most. A silence not of fear, but of possibility. Behind him, soft footsteps. He didn't turn. He didn't need to. Thalara's arms slid around his waist. "Too quiet for you?" she murmured against his back. He smiled. "Too perfect, maybe." She moved beside him, her gaze following the curve of the horizon. The council ratified the reforms. The human alliance is official. My brother's name was stricken from the archives. Raj nodded. "And you?" She looked up at him. "I've declined the throne." He raised an eyebrow. "I chose something harder," she added, "leading from outside the system, building a future no one else imagined." "With you?" He laughed softly. "You sure you're ready for a life with no protocols and too much sarcasm?" She kissed his shoulder. "I've survived war. I can survive your jokes." A quiet breeze rolled through. The stars blinked into place. "You ever think," Raj said slowly, "that we weren't supposed to meet?" Thalara tilted her head. "Maybe, but I also think the universe isn't about what's supposed to happen. It's about what we choose to do, when it does." He turned to her then, really turned, and cupped her face in both hands. Her eyes were fierce and soft and endless. "You saved me," he said. She smiled. "We saved each other." They kissed, slow, certain, infinite. When they pulled apart, Thalara rested her head on his shoulder. "One thing." She reached into her sleeve and handed him a small data crystal. "What's this?" "A name." "For what?" "For our daughter." Raj blinked. "You mean..." Her smile said the rest. He held the crystal as if it were made of stars. And maybe, in a way, it was.